Welcome back to Good Morning Wilmington. Our next guest on the plaza is the beautiful Mrs. Delaware America Alesha Shaw. Good morning. Welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Good morning, Alicia.
Good morning.
I feel like there's a connection here. You guys you might have met once or twice, huh?
Maybe just a little bit. Super excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to be with us here on the plaza.
Thank you.
So before we dive into all the amazing things that you've been doing throughout your year as Mrs. Delaware America, let's start from the very, very beginning.
Okay.
Who is Alicia Shaw?
Ooh, wow. So Alicia Shaw is a wife, a mother, a pageant queen. I actually was one of those little girls that always watched pageantry on TV, and I actually get it from my mom. My mom would watch the girls on TV, watch it together, and I never thought that I would be one of them. But yeah, I became interested in pageantry when I was a teenager. I did my high school pageant and just did it just out of fun, just doing things, and I won it. And when I won that pageant, I got something in the mail to compete. Well, I was raised in Texas, so I got something in the mail to compete for Miss Teenage Texas, and I'm like, let's try and see how that goes. I mean, to go from a couple girls in a high school, I didn't know how I was compete against 60 other girls, but my mom was like, hey, let's go for it, let's do it. I did it. Got second runner-up from a very first real pageant.
And that's a big deal, by the way.
Sounds
That's a big deal.
Sounds
This
like
was
it.
Texas?
Yeah, it was Miss Teenage Texas.
Yes, Texas.
Very small state, so I'm sure it's
Right. Let's talk about that real quick.
right.
Hold on. Texas pageantry,
It's
very
huge.
competitive
Is it?
state.
I believe it.
Yes.
I believe it.
Extremely competitive state. And to just be a runner-up, first try,
That's
not
huge.
knowing really what to
Do-
expect.
Yeah, it was very
Congratulations on that.
exciting because
Yes.
I definitely didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to expect. I had on a prom dress that I got from an outlet store, and a woman who owned a boutique in my hometown got me a little cocktail dress for our opening number. You know, we didn't know what we were doing, but yeah, I got second runner-up. So it was like getting bit by the bug a little bit. I wanted to try it one more time. I'm like, let me just try one more time. I'm gonna be done with pageantry. I'm not gonna do this anymore. And I competed for Miss Black El Paso.
Okay.
For that one, I got first runner-up. So I was like, maybe there's something there, but I ended up not really fully going into it because it is kind of expensive. My parents weren't the type to really have the money to really give me all I needed for the training, the coaching and everything. So I kind of gave up on it and went about my life. I didn't really think much of it. I continued to follow and look at TV and things of that nature, but as I got older, I was like, okay, I definitely can't do it now because I got older, aged out of doing pageantry, but I was always really big on wanting to look good, feel good. I had actually low self-esteem as a kid. I didn't think I was a pretty girl. I didn't think I was the one that would be on those stages, but because I was doing well on this stage, I thought, well, maybe some people see something in me. So the bug didn't actually go away. I just kind of grew up a little bit, tried to mature a little bit, understand who I was, understand what I liked, what I didn't like. So I decided to give it a go at it. I remember being small and seeing Mrs. America on TV. I was probably about maybe 11, 12. And I remembered, hey, those girls are married, so maybe when I get married, I will be able to try for another pageant. And sure enough, 3 months after I got married, I searched if there was a married pageant in Delaware. So by that time I had moved to Delaware. I had grown up, my husband was here in Delaware. I moved here to be with him. So I'm like, let me see if there's a married pageant. This was in 2011. And I'm like, I'm gonna compete for Mrs. Delaware America, 10 years ago, after 3 months of being married. And
How did your husband feel about that?
he didn't care. He was like,
Good husband.
yeah, I mean, he
Smart
was like,
man.
if that's
Just
something you
smart
want to
man.
do.
He let you do your thing, support from
Yeah.
afar.
He
Good
was
man.
like, if that's something you want to do, if you like it, go right ahead. So
Good.
he just was all aboard. He was cool with it. And so I competed for Mrs. Delaware America, like I said, 10 years ago. Didn't know what I was doing again because prior to that, I had only competed a couple times and it was years before. But I was just, it was something about the system, something about just being involved in pageantry that I could not get out of it. And I didn't do well, I didn't place or anything in Mrs. Delaware America then. but I always followed the ladies. It's like when you become in pageants, for me, you're competing against each other, but not really. You know, I feel like a lot of times, for me anyways, I'm competing to be better. So the ladies
and you
that I
had were
meet,
before.
yeah,
Yep.
and so the ladies that I meet, I don't necessarily see them as my competition. Like usually I end up being friends with them. I'm inspired, and
Sure.
most of the women that I've met during pageantry, I still, you know, we connect. So I followed the ladies, I followed the pageant system, and I really just felt the little itch again. I felt like I was at a time and space, mature-wise, to understand what pageantry really was and what I can do with the title. So I'm like, I'm gonna try it one more time. I want to just try for Mrs. Delaware America one more time. And it was something that said that, you know, you have the time, you have the opportunity, just go ahead and try it.
Look what happened.
And look what happened, yeah.
Look what happened.
Wonderful.
Hey, I'm a firm believer that it's all in God's timing.
Yeah.
I truly believe that as a former myself, someone who loves pageantry, and if you know me, you know I love pageantry. Yeah. And even though I am not a title holder anymore, you will always have your heart in it in some form or way. And now that I'm a director of the Miss Delaware USA and Miss Delaware Teen USA pageant, I have the ability to help title holders such as yourself follow their own journey. But I do believe it's in God's timing, and it was meant to happen. Clearly it was just the timing had to be right. And it seemed like it was the right time, because I was not able to be there when you won, but I was watching from afar. Usually I go to the Mrs. Delaware America pageant. I'm very, very close to all the ladies that compete, and the director and the production. So I really, really enjoy attending other pageants. But I was able to witness your win from social media, good thing for social media, and you could just tell like how in the moment you were like, finally.
Yeah. You know what's so crazy? I was sick that morning. I was so sick that morning to where I was like, is it gonna be my time? Is this like, did I miss, like, I just felt like something was gonna go wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was sick, I was throwing up, I had a headache. I didn't even complete the practice. And when I got back, you know, for, you know, time to compete, I was like, okay, I didn't do this. I didn't come back, you know, to not do well. And I just sucked it up and it was like,
and you're there. Well, let's talk about your platform, because I do know that you're, you know, a platform, for any personal platform a title holder may have, is always near and dear to them. And you do get to select something of, you know, that you're passionate about. So, and I know you're passionate about yours. So tell us all about your platform and its mission.
Yeah, so my platform is Mommin Wife'n Queenin. And what happened and why I even came up with that was I had actually started to experience a depression, and I didn't realize it was depression. And I'm actually in the mental health field and didn't realize that that's what I was experiencing. But it was because I was giving to everybody, my daughters, my husband, my job, and was not taking care of myself. And I was actually thankful for the pandemic. And I know people's like, what? But I was actually thankful for the shutdown, because it gave me time to really sit down and say, what is it that makes me happy again? Like, what do I enjoy?
Like a reset.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely a reset for me. And I felt like even though I was a good mother, I felt like I still wasn't giving them myself, because I was always just get up and go, get them what they need, get my husband what he needs, and you guys okay? All right, bye. You know, it wasn't really like a lot of connection because I wasn't taking care of myself. So I had to learn how to figure out what fuels me and what kind of gets me back in that good space, because they wasn't getting the mommy that they deserved. They needed someone that was more, like you say, reset and refilled. So Mommin Wife'n Queenin is all about making sure you don't get lost in those roles, but that you're able to continue to take care of yourself while you're being a mom and a wife, or whatever else roles that you're taking on.
I love that phrase.
Yeah. Now, with the title Mrs. Delaware America, have you been able to really promote your platform on a larger scale now?
I've really been trying to focus. I also have my podcast is Mommin Wife'n Queenin. So I've really been trying to reach out to women to talk about their stories, how they're balanced, and are you taking care of yourself? What are you doing to make sure that you're good? So I try to do things on my podcast, as well as I have a blog as well. I talk about different things that help me keep myself together. I'm very spiritual, so a lot of it you'll see faith-based information on the blogs and things of that nature. But I also have books as well. So I have a Mommin Queenin book that all the women got together and talk about, like, what are we doing, the struggles that we deal with as mommies in this day and age, because there's so many more things that are out there than when we were kids. So that's kind of where my focus has been on, is making sure that I'm able to reach more women on my podcast and my blog and stuff like that.
So on that note, what do you feel like is the hardest thing about being a mom, a wife, a title holder, a businesswoman?
Good question.
It's not, to me, I think the hardest thing is not getting the rest that you need. I think we think that we have to go. And if we're not doing anything, something has to get, your mind is still going.
Right.
So I think it's important that you always make sure that you're resting and giving yourself grace. For me, I was hard on myself. If I wasn't giving them, their meals every day, or if I wasn't giving them the time that they need every day, I felt like I was being a bad mom or a bad wife. And I just learned to kind of give myself grace. Like, it's okay if they're not perfect. There's no such thing.
No such thing as
No,
perfect.
not at all.
So I just say, hey, girl, you did the best you can today, and keep it moving.
Redirected that inner voice, it sounds like, and that's super important.
Yeah,
for you.
definitely.
Well, so you competed for the national competition over the summer. So I know all about obviously what happens. I was following, and the pageant fan in me. You competed for the national Mrs. America pageant, and I believe it was held in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yes.
So tell us about that experience.
It was amazing. I mean, I know that kind of seems cliche, but it was so fun to be able to kind of go and experience a different. I have been in Las Vegas, so to go to Las Vegas and experience like the whole city of Las Vegas was pretty cool. But what I really enjoyed was the women there were actually very, very like sweet. Everyone had an awesome story to where anyone could have really been Mrs. America and would have done well, you know? And at first it was intimidating because it was my first time ever being that far, but everyone was so supportive and kind of like, it was definitely a sisterhood. It was kind of like we saw each other on social media. We had already pretty much known each other, so it was reunion sort of, because we had kind of seen each other before we actually saw in person. So I really just enjoyed the experience. It was funny.
And now you have a friend in every state.
Yes. And I'm
it.
actually gonna try, hopefully, to get them on the podcast so they can tell about how they're.
a great idea.
Yeah, how they're doing everything, because it's a lot when you have a title, because you still have a family that you have to worry about as well.
Excellent. How can viewers follow you on social media or tune in for your podcast?
Oh, yes. So on Instagram is The Alicia Shaw, as well as on Facebook, it's The Alicia Shaw. My podcast is Mommin Wife'n Queenin. So I'm sure if you search those on like Apple, Spotify, and I think there's another one that is on. You can be able to find me on there. And if you want to follow the pageant system in a whole, because we also have Mrs. Pennsylvania, that is at Mrs. and Miss for America, PADE. So you'll see other pageant queens like Miss Pennsylvania, Miss Delaware, all of those on that particular page.
It's a sisterhood.
It
really
is.
does sound like it.
Sisterhood.
Now that I've been friends with Vincenzo for a few years, I've learned so much about this, and it really is the one common theme that you always bring up when we have guests is the sisterhood, and I think that's wonderful.
Oh, that's why we keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
That's not only where we have the opportunity to really speak on the things that matter to us, that we're passionate about, and we also have the opportunity to empower women and the sisterhood, which we just continue to gravitate towards. Because like I said, once you compete at the national competition, you have a friend in every state almost. Which,
and I think people don't
really
even realize that.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
when I competed for Miss USA and I got home, someone told me this, and I'm like, you're right. I have a friend in every state now.
Not everybody can say that. Not a lot of people at all can say that. No.
So it was a neat experience, but I know that we have to come to the end of this interview, and I can keep talking all day.
It was so nice to meet you. Yeah.
Why don't you share with our viewers about the Mrs. Delaware pageant that will be coming up in 2023 if someone wants to attend, be a sponsor, or compete. Why don't you share with our viewers information on that?
Yeah, so the next pageant is May 7th, 2023. If you want to compete for Mrs. Delaware America, you can also go to Miss and Miss for America, PADE.com, to apply to be Mrs. Delaware. And if you're not married, there's also the Miss Delaware for America that you can also apply to compete for. If you want to sponsor, we're available as well.
Yes, I was looking for sponsors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you're interested in sponsoring, go to that site, Mrs. and Miss foramericapade.com.
Excellent. Alicia, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Very
everybody.
excited to have you on Good Morning Wilmington, and good luck with the remainder of your reign. I'm sure that the next chapter is going to be even better because this is only the beginning.
Yes,
right?
thank you. Thank
Of
you.
course.
What's up, everyone? It's your main man, Big Iv, the talk of the town, Mr. DETVCH.com, and I'm here with my wonderful and amazing co-host,
Vincenza.
We just stopped by to tell you to be sure, if you want any information on what's going on in Wilmington and to meet some dynamic people doing some amazing and great things, be sure to watch us live on Good Morning Wilmington on Mondays and Wednesdays at 10 p.m.
Oh, Ivan, 10 a.m.
Which he said, 10 a.m.
Listen to me. That's why he has me here. But yes, tune in live, 10 a.m. Monday and Wednesday on Good Morning Wilmington.
DETVCH.com.